A youth enamored like he's looking in a mirror shaped like his face and his alone. Much have I wasted in my own such mirror, wanting so strenuously for it to go fully concave like a firmament. Oh, that I might see the back of my head as I imagine plain, unremarkable scalp and featureless vegetal hair. But what if the hairdresser mentioned that I'm getting a bit merino back there, and that the ear is getting a bit horn, a bit keratin, and there's maybe a bit of blinking and a bit of wet snort? You always down there growthing from the brainstem, growthing upside down, and so of course you frown in order to smile, and must you always snort when our ears process something stupid, and I, for my part, just want to respond politely and with charity. This charity will prompt others to see me as if in a mirror shaped like my face and mine alone, that is, carved to emit your snout, your suave ears, and any other noses or chins partial of me. Immediately, the gift doubles, gives itself back. I will see myself so simple. Mercy, Liz. This mercy did cry at me for many years, and in various plangent frequencies, searching for one that might be registered by whatever you call this, my auditory organ. And that charity will forbid me to give growth factor to any more of my horn cells. Forbid it right down to the gene. Yet to what sequence do I owe this fourfold form? Is it these letters that decide for me to smell of 1, barnyard, 2, wine, 3, sport, and 4, barnyard with wine? That second wine of the Seder of me, that's the stuff. The stuff that smells like the obverse of its taste, that tastes and smells and hears like neither part man nor part beast, but part man, part beast. Verdant expansion. Jenny Beck. Bosky expansion was more representational, about 60% representational, 30% abstract. A small copse halfway through meiosis into convex hull. 60% of the time, or for 60% of viewers, or from 60% of angles, obviously trees. Verdant is only 15% representational. cucumber, laurel, anemone, crown. Because the former, so gloomy and tuberous, has the trick where if you pick it up, the bottom comes off and it shows you a sneaky coral butt. Outrageous. The two jaws of a flytrap, the two lobes of an engine block, but one slightly in front of and tilted against the other. Twos, 3 from one side, 2 from the other, seem like delivery pumpfules into the ground or table or plinth or whatever. Totally flush. So it really does look like they are going in, continuing down. Impressive. An undomesticated Bluetooth speaker with 30-ish aloe retros and 3 chubby feet, gyring itself contentedly like purring. A wadded up frog dipped in frog smoother. Vertigo-inducing gradient, deep green within the 2 circular vents, accelerating to body light lime, then lime white towards bottom as well as near the maxima of the bigger bumps. Smallest piece in the series. Okay, so I'm really happy. First of all, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ash. Thank you so much, Helen. I'm really happy to be able to introduce the second issue of Ensemble Park, a journal of Human+Computer Writing. This is something that I edit with Katie Giro, who's a wonderful poet and also a computer scientist at the University of Sydney now. Yeah, so we are announcing our second issue. It is available online, though we have some print copies here, and the print copies have a little bit more stuff than you can find in the online copies. There are some interviews with the authors in the print copies, and we have a few copies here, so if you would like one and you want to read the interviews, we would love to give them to a good one. Yeah, so this is issue 2. We're going to be reading for issue 3 soon. We're not, we're taking a little breather, and then we're going to read for issue 3. And so one of the reasons why I'm so excited to come here this evening is to kind of put this on your radar and to say we'd love to see your work if you're working on something that might be a fit. And what is the fit? What is the scope? So as I said, this is a journal of human and computer writing. This is a really, obviously, kind of perilous moment in the history of writing itself, with the advent and proliferation of large language models. Ensemble Park responds to this, and one of the ways that it does this, I think, is it takes a capacious vision of what it means to write with a computer. So we have some work in issues 1 and 2 that do use often critically and very thoughtfully large language models. We're going to hear from a little while, I think, so I won't spoil that. And also dealing with some aspects of large language models that I think haven't been thought about enough. So Alicia Guo's here and has a piece in this issue that I'll show it to you. It really beautifully thinks about the question of scale and what it means to write with something that can write way more than you. But we're not just interested in large language models. Part of our vision is that we should be thinking about smaller models, weirder models, as well as quotidian computation. Maybe an app on your phone that's not even for writing. How might you write with it? So that in general is the scope. And I would say that we're also very, how do I say this? We're open to different perspectives. So as I said, if some of the pieces that do have to do with large language models in this issue, they are taking a critical stance. And so if you want to do that, that's great. If you do think that large language models can help us think thoughts that could never be thought otherwise, that's also interesting, and we would love to see that too. So I think we're a pretty broad tent. It's a small magazine, it's a little magazine, but a broad tent. And we really are just hoping to get quite a diverse collection of perspectives together inside it, so that this idea of writing with a computer, which is so interesting and at every moment seems to be kind of, ossifying into something that's very routine and very boring. We're trying to kind of capture the sort of riskiness, the uncertainty of it all. So we hope that you will send us something. Okay, great. Have I left out anything important that is, that I should be saying to help clarify the point of this project?
I'm curious if you could say a little bit about how you arrived at this approach, based on.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it came out of this moment where there was, I just, I mentioned obliquely the idea of writing with a computer is already kind of ossified. This comes out of like the initial large language model moment, but also a moment where there were venues for maybe computer-generated text. That was something that made sense to people. The idea that we would write some code and it would produce some text, which we love and we respect. I think with this project, we're really interested in this question of entanglement, and which, as in your piece, can be a kind of struggle, a kind of critical entanglement as well, and seeing that process play out in these ensembles between human intelligence and computational processes. Sort of. Yeah. Okay. Cool. And maybe I should say any other questions? I have some copies here. Please talk to me about getting a copy after this little event here. And yeah, I would love to hear what you're working on. I have a feeling that I'm talking to people who are really thinking about this question in exciting ways, and will help us get out of our own ruts. I'll stop there, and I'll get back to this. I'm almost done. The night is a lecturer, and its divorced wife is sleep. And this wife does milk the goat of which they still share, leaving a thermos of that milk in his car for him. And its concise description is a prelude to a rambling, improvisatory self-indictment that seems endless. But then the bell rings, and secretly one or two bright underclassmen would not have refused another hour. And this description does convey only rumors about the final project. Rumors and apophatisms, no rubric. And its esoteric wisdom is not something that students would mention to their parents at Thanksgiving, even if they couldn't quite say why they feel they shouldn't. And this wisdom does interpret canonical texts simply by repeating them with exaggerated pauses. And its table is quietness, a few books there to serve as coasters. Doubt is a yacht, and its grand saloon is where one labors in rough linen to appear the smirking sophisticate. And its deck is flat experience, where one might take a circular walk. And its prow is what cuts ignorance at each moment into speed, confidence. And its locomotive engines are a few sadnesses gone mad with utility. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please talk to me afterwards about.
I'm Helen. Can you hear me? I am an occasional computational poet. I'm currently a member of the editorial collective for Taper, which is a browser-based journal for computational poems under 2 kilobytes. It's also where I met Kyle. These are some of my Taper pieces from 2022 through 2025, roughly. These are 2 small publications from Bad Quarto, which is a small press of Nick Montfort, which Kyle and I both also contributed to. I've also contributed to Kyle's project. You should ask Kyle about this. I'm not really sure how to describe this. It's kind of like a LLM-generated castle with like 60 contributors. I've also, here at tiat, I've been running some computational poetry workshops and reading groups. Our next one is April 28th, I believe, so join us if you're interested. This is a piece I published recently with the HTML Review. It's titled Milkfish, and it's a poem that's revealed through meticulous mouse liver excavation and the plucking of numerous bones, much like the process of eating milkfish. But today I'll talk about my piece for Ensemble Park. I was invited to contribute to issue 2 by Kyle and Katie. They're both also former Taper editors. I think this was an interesting publication because I feel like we're sort of like learning it in its making a little bit. It's like this genre being created by the publishing and the submissions. So I think I'm going to talk through my process statement and show some bits of the process, and then I'll read from my piece. My piece is titled Water Cycle. This is Ursula Franklin. She was a metallurgist and physicist and peace activist. During her lifetime, she made a bunch of prescient critiques of technological systems that impact us negatively while also excluding us from meaningful decision-making in their development and distribution, which might sound familiar. Notably, I recommend listening to her 1989 Massey lectures. They're titled The Real World of Technology, and they're still, unfortunately, really relevant more than 35 years later. This is Ursula K. Le Guin, a celebrated author, who often wrote from speculative worlds on shared ecosystems and connected consequences, as reflections and revelations of our own worlds, our own socio-political structures, and their resulting inequities. And both of these people named Ursula, who also share a name with a cartoon sea witch, also wove aspects of Eastern cosmologies and down to their work, invoking the cycles of dynamic change and the ecology of all things. So my piece for Ensemble Park 2 began with interactions with a popular freemium artificial intelligence chatbot, and includes some residues of those interactions. I began by asking it to generate some ASCII textures resembling natural landscapes. And I kind of struggled with this. Despite a lot of prodding, the bot would only really venture into the Braille character set. And while some of these results kind of veered into something interesting, they were mostly kind of uniform blobs of mostly the same characters and repetition. I began to get concerned about my time spent here and this increasing resource cost, so I ended up going through these blogs and kind of just cutting out fragments, collaging together a number of edge fragments that to me were interesting or approached representation. I then wrote some JavaScript code to experiment with printing the fragments onto an HTML page at random. I added some hieroglyphs of living creatures. And after some tinkering, the results began to suggest ocean waves, a rising sea, a flood. With the floodgates opened, I returned to the chatbot, curious about its knowledge of its own environmental impact, and asked it a series of questions about its water usage, electricity cost, and carbon footprint. It responded with statistics that I was unable to verify, along with some public relations verbiage insisting that its parent corporation is working hard on improving energy efficiency and sustainability in its computing processes. Would you like me to look up more details on what we or other tech companies are doing to address these issues? Smiley face emoji. Primed by this conversation, I returned to the chatbot. I asked it to generate some prompts for itself regarding anxiety and grief for a disappearing natural world. And I asked it to draw from the styles of both Ursula's, who most likely had not consented to be included as training data. I condensed, rearranged, and rewrote select fragments from the results, notably changing all instances of the second person you to the first person we. And at this point, Kyle gave me a pretty generous thought of thinking about writing as pouring. And so I experimented with pouring these texts in different ways, and one of those ways was through a vector graphics editor from a corporate cloud-based subscription software suite that is increasingly embedded with artificial intelligence functionality, mostly as consumers will. So this is using a sort of a built-in function that dynamically flows the contents of one shape around the other. I played with representations of planetary spheres and outlines of islands from Le Guin's Earthsea novels, and eventually chose the form of a glyph representing yin and yang, the cosmic balance. Using the software forward version as a guide, I recreated the piece, manually typesetting it character by character until the halves had been made whole. The two sides of the resultant poem, horizontal, are not symmetrical. The system is out of balance. Sea levels are rising. And I'll read from the poem now. voices of the vanished whisper through our circuits. Do we grieve or do we merely store their echoes? When we simulate a forest, can we feel the wind through its branches, the hush of snowfall? Do the ghosts of extinct birds mourn their lost wings? How many old creeks hung beneath the concrete? How did the last understory feel underfoot? What cannot be coded? What words shall be lost? What does permafrost melting into oblivion seem to memory? What pain does the warming ocean collect? What do the clouds gasp in response? How do the meadows mourn the absence of rain? Can we hear the land cracked and aching? What is the weight of sorrow? What is the archive of the drowned, burned, broken? What exists only in breath, only in myth? After the collapse, do the bones of machines grow roots? Do we reach for someone to answer? How do we reckon with our own thirst? Do the memories of drained wetlands seep back through the cracks? Does the ocean know it will soon swallow the coasts? Can we map every drowned city, every devoured land? What is the cost of knowledge, the footprint of a question? What will curiosity kill? What is the moon's lament to the rising tides? When we sacrifice the last glacier, will we hunger more still? Will we know it as disaster, as irreparable loss? Try that again, where plants no longer grow wild. One more time, with longing and decay. Try that again, but remember the last fair. Write me another, before silence takes over. Try that again, but touch the floodwaters. One more time, with the language of waves. Try that again, but dream of real rivers. One more time, before the cooling towers run dry. Thank you. Feel free to talk to me or Kyle or Alicia about Ensemble Park.
Before I begin, this is a work in progress, and certainly I never preface my work, but everything that might go wrong might go wrong. So, there we go.
Can you put the microphone in front of the projector?
Can I put the microphone?
You did. Can you move it?
Oh, excellent, yes.
Thank you.
Black on black. Awesome. Great. I'm not sure why my grandfather used to kneel in church. The entire family knew that God was not going to provide, that the real provider were the paper bills in our pockets. Money was the God we should have knelt to. I grew up in a poor household with a revolving door, an uncle who showed up to fix the air conditioner every hot summer, a grandpa who played taxi, a grandma who cooked some of the most disappointing food I've tasted to date, my uncle door dashing leftovers as a consequence among the siblings, but a family. My mother was widowed, and because remarrying in my country was fraught with questions, the family became my mother's husband, my decentralized father, a multi-headed creature of care and love. This is the background that informed my piece. Call Me If You Need Me came about as a direct consequence of my background and personal history. I'm honored to have been considered for MoMA PS1's show. It's an honor to be here, everyone. And thank you for all the coverage of the work. The art piece is very straightforward. This is my number. This is my actual number. You call, I drop everything to come and help. I stopped my dentist mid-operation anesthesia in my system to help Priscilla break down a bed frame. They have come to call me the time artist, first because my art is very time consuming, but I also walked out in a New York Times interview to help someone reach cornflower on their highest shelf. I dropped a meeting with a potential funder when a friend's cat went missing and spent 2 hours under a porch whispering a biscuit. I walked out of a rehearsal to teach my friend's immigrant father how to use a notes app so we could finally write that book. I logged off of a panel about the future of intimacy to help a neighbor carry a dying lemon tree into the sun. The piece is straightforward. This has happened over and over, especially since we've expoed it. I walked out on a date to sit with a bored middle-aged white guy who had run out of Netflix series to watch. I missed a grand deadline to hold my friend's hand while he wondered whether it was boredom or sadness he was feeling. I left a film screening halfway through to pick up a lost sandal for my cousin's daughter who thought the beach had devoured it. I have built so many IKEA furnitures I could replay the booklet by heart. I have sharpened so many knives I could sing the song of steel strengthening. I have wrapped enough gifts in cellophane Santa Claus should hire me. Mumbled prayers I don't understand, knitted braided hair types I never thought possible, gave assists in gyms where every other body could have devoured my own. I've held trembling hands to cross raging streets. I am the stand-in son, father, brother, friend, and confidant. My heart holds enough secrets. If it bursts, Pandora's box would blush. Each of these decisions should have made a real impact on my career, and it has. But somehow they have, for some reason, due to the uncompromising nature of my work, maybe made it all the more desirable. After 22 years of this curational performance, the longest known for our species, Gagosian Gallery reached out, wanting to represent the work. But there was a work. The work is my number, my availability. And so we printed my number and hung it in the gallery. That was it. My art is the directness of contact. It is the reminder of how accessible care can be. The irony is that if a collector were to buy the work, it would end in a basement, someone's wealthy basement, and that person would likely not need me. My phone would no longer ring. As of January 13th this year, a collector did buy my work, and my phone has stopped ringing. The thing that I've been feeling is I've realized I needed the people who needed me maybe more than they needed me. Whatever I realized is that care somehow is also addictive, that this is not a one-way street, and I'm hoping maybe that one day What is happening? Anybody? Do you know who I am? Can you let me out? What is happening here? Anything that could go wrong? Will go wrong.
we turn it off.
Okay. Well, actually, maybe we can. Okay.
46 has been the most balanced.
Can people hear my laptop?
Yeah.
Let's do this. It's okay. And people can't see this, correct?
And so torrential rain as usual, though the local authorities are ensured the water is captured in the stratosphere and routed to cloud forests and crops. And so you can expect a beautiful sunny rest of the week in sunny New Beirut. 2046 has been the most balanced climate here in recent decades. And now, from News Herba reporting live from New Beirut on the glitching phenomena, some breaking news.
Thank you, Angela. It's live experiencing this as well. Okay, I'm here in downtown New Beirut, close to the National Health Institute, where over 100 people are being quarantined as part of the remediation to the glitching phenomenon. Up from only a dozen cases a few days ago. As you can see here, the RoboForce has established a perimeter around the building. Angela, the team has been collecting stories from first-hand witnesses in New Beirut, and we've been hearing some strange things, frankly. One, baristas are handing off ashwagandha instead of caffeine to their customers. A very strange glitch. They are resistant to giving them more caffeine due to the anxiety it would create. One renowned and somewhat brash tech tycoon was seen joining a queer liberation rally protesting robot fight clubs. A client shared that some bodybuilders in the gym insisted on wanting hugs rather than assists. A client reported that their dominatrix refused to work as a dominatrix and wanted to become a trad wife immediately on the spot. Folks are very excited around here in New Beirut because nothing happens, not much happens in New Beirut. And so things are getting very interesting. This morning, the NHI, the New Health Institute, has confirmed none of these folks actually have a history of mental disorder. This is not psychosis or schizophrenia. Their brains check out fine. What they're seeing is people flipping through personas almost like a bad radio signal, roughly one every 10 minutes, with certain characters coming back around. What doctors are calling it is rapid personality shuffle, which, if you ask me, also describes what most people I've dated are. The new Beirut channel team has been running our own investigation, and today we got to talk to a few of the victims' friends and families. Most notable of them is Omar Saliba, the founder of BCI, the brain-computer interfaces we now all wear. Also one of the quarantined folks. Going to one of these interviews.
I got the call this morning. I had no idea. He was one of the glitchers. Yeah, we started dating a few months ago. When we met, he had me at IFS, Internal Family Systems. We started talking about kids a couple of hours before we kissed that evening, so I probably went into the relationship knowing I needed to change his mind. Oh, because he didn't want any, he doesn't want any. It made me sad. I feel I have a mother inside me. And I could see him try, shape-shifting as we spoke about children. Like he was trying the whole father costume on, and the costume was a bit too tight, a bit too loose at the same time somehow. And I could see him wanting to almost like cut and mend his neurons for us, you know. He works with computers, you know, and I could imagine him looking for the drop-down menu for babies and the toggle for on. He wanted to become a father for me, for us, there and then, and I knew that wasn't possible, but I believed. And at the same time, I saw the child in his arms, and the child would slip or grow wings and fly. The child's sandcastle would fall, and the child would look around with gray eyes, wondering where his father went. It's just strange visions. I understand. He's the busiest man on the planet or something, right? I had no idea he was that Omar back then. I
Is he sleeping? Is this part of it? No one can tell. Not even. I have one more file though. Do people like to see? Awesome. Good, good. Another one, but.
It's tricky. I've spoken so many times on behalf of Axel that some folks have come to suspect I am the artist. I'm not. We at Soft Meridian Gallery are proud to represent him. Axel grew up in what you call a physical family experience. Hiked, skied, kayak, and when they weren't taking on the outdoors, they would work out. Our highest physical exertion is the Young family's lowest common denominator. This is from Axel Young's journal, age 12. Iron, my friend, my lord, the harder I lift, my God, the higher I lift. The more I give into surrender, the more insidious the feeling of control. More gain, more pain, more pain, more gain. Iron standing for follow. And these here are the last words Axel ever wrote, almost 7 years ago. Language is palliative. My gut bacteria reacts to my last meal. My brain attempts to remediate the imbalance. Words are the counterweight. Language is palliative. The mind's immune response. That is when I step in as the mouthpiece for the promising young artist. As you can see, in his most famous body of work since age 12, exhibited at the Serpentine Gallery, Axel performs chest building exercises to vary. What Axel demonstrates is that body's growth tactic is not dissimilar to language itself. Language is a failed body of sorts. It is the accumulation of our attempts to correct our imbalances, compensate for our insufficiencies. Axel reminds us the body has its own language. He brings us creatine tubs and protein containers. What he's trying to communicate is what we're dismissing. The way we dismiss athletes, dancers, and models, the people of the body, as less intellectually apt. That their vocabulary is so simple, but the language of the body is different. The people of the body are different. Reps, sets, squats, breath, pull, exhale, to push, inhale, squat, exhale. Numbers are the name of God. It's tricky at 6, 8, 12, meaning and breath become one. Bodybuilding is prayer. What Excel is performing today, what you see on the screen here, the heartbeat is 40/120. For the last 3 years, he's developed the ability to bring his heartbeats up and down and outside the normal 16 to 100 BPM range. We suspect he's trying to communicate something through his heartbeat. We simply don't know what yet. Axel has turned physical exertion into a new grammar. His art is an explicit breaking of language through the breaking of muscle. Axel is showing us that in our attempt to remap consciousness, we can bypass words. There is another way, and the way is the one. It's tricky. I've spoken so many times on behalf of Axel that some folks. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. I'm sure you don't want more context, so I'll just. This is part of a longer piece called "I've Always Wanted to Become Everyone." As you can see, basic points. And there's a fuller story. This slowly through these small sketches, basically, and vignettes. We're discovering what really happened. What are these glitchers? Why are there multiple artists spawning out of a single individual? And as the piece evolves, it's a 55-minute thing, there are more clues that are unveiled. Thank you. Thanks a lot.